All righty, boys and girls, welcome back to another episode of the Red, White, Claret, and Blue Show. One episodes that get harder and harder to do seemingly every week. I am your host, Alex Baquero, and this is Chris. I hope Mr. Brightside conned it because I need a little uplifting today. Your American villain voices, as always, serving up the lukewarmest of lukewarm opinions. Unfortunately, I think to even stay lukewarm about this team right now, Chris, is to be very pessimistic. So please go like, follow, rate, review, subscribe, all the places below our faces. Chris, what's going on with you? Is there anything that we can talk about to delay the inevitable any longer?
No.
Cool.
Everything's pretty much the same as it was a couple of days ago, except that the performance was worse. But we did get a goal, so there's that.
Yeah,
had one that was wiped off that looked pretty good, but that's about it.
Yeah, listen, we will certainly talk about VAR, the offsides rule. I will repeat myself once again that, listen, MLS doesn't do a lot of things right, but I think they have the offsides rule VAR application correct. So we will go over that. What I don't want, and I texted you this yesterday, is the two offsides calls or non-calls should not distract from the fact that this was another atrocious performance. Did not deserve a victory whatsoever. Now, sure, if you get that goal, if you go up 2-1, does the game manifest differently? Maybe, but everything that we saw from Aston Villa, particularly in the second half, said Chelsea were getting 4, 5, 6, 7 goals, regardless of how many we put on the board. And so, same things all over again. Lack of plan B. Unai seems completely flummoxed by what's going on, and that seems to be the case from his post-match interviews as well. I'm kind of rambling. Let's get back into our usual structure, to use a Unai Emery term, structure of this podcast. Chris, you and I both advocated for major changes. You get embarrassed by the 20th place team, one of the worst teams in Premier League history.
Hottest team in Europe right now.
Yeah, I know, right? We're going to chop and change everything. Unai, however, did not. We've said definition of insanity many a time on this podcast over the course of the years. This was definitely it. We made the extremely bold change to bring back in Tyrone Mings and move Emi Buendia to the middle and Morgan Rogers out wide left. Now, Rogers wide left is certainly something that you and I have asked for, but those two alone never felt to me when I saw that lineup card as significant enough to kind of light a fire under the team to change anything.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. And Buendia still is struggling to maintain possession. That continued yesterday. And still the biggest issue, even though he scored a goal that was wiped out, that was very close to remaining onside. And, for 150 years before this would have been considered onside. But Ollie Watkins, his inability to take a shot on time and on target is getting wild at this point.
In behind, just him and the goalie.
Yep.
And somehow he slows up for
Yep. That was the one
to kind of knock him over, right?
That was the one that stood out to me the most. There was a second attempt that went straight to the keeper. There was, and it was virtually a 1v1. It wasn't quite a 1v1 with the keeper, but virtually. And then there was there was one in the second half where it looked like he could break away, and rather than do that, he slowed up and the defender caught up and took the ball off of him. I don't remember who it was, but it's getting crazy at this point. That did he have great service No, not necessarily. Did he have certainly opportunities to score? Yes. Did he take most of them? No. I I don't know if it's lack of confidence at this point, but he's not even shooting the ball now. And I don't understand. Um, I don't understand why he continues to get a start, because this is crazy that we can't score goals.
And not only get a start, he's like the last one to come off the field.
Yep.
Right? Like Tammy doesn't come on until like the 70th minute, maybe.
Yeah.
Definition of insanity, but this persistence with some of Unai Emery's favorites. In some ways, he's a ruthless manager, but it does seem like in many ways, particularly personnel-wise, he is completely blind to what it seems like everybody else following this team can see. You mentioned most of the guys who did not perform up to snuff. Another one actually that I want to get to later is Ezri Konsa, who had a nightmarish time trying to deal with João Pedro.
Yep.
One though, if we're going to go through this chronologically, one player who I did think finally showed a little something was Leon Bailey on the right-hand side. You know, that first assist, you texted me this, classic Leon Bailey, right? He kind of holds up Hato just for a second, gets to the end line, cuts it back across, really nice area, puts it somewhere where, you know, was it the best cross in the world?
No.
Absolutely not. No. But he put it in a dangerous area. He put it at a dangerous pace. And Douglas Luiz, I mean, hell of a classy finish to put Villa up 2-0. What really frustrated me, though, Chris, was that Villa get that goal, and instead of playing like a team that is 6 points ahead of Chelsea and has been ahead of Chelsea all season long going into that game, they almost played like a team that's trying to avoid relegation.
Yeah.
They got that early goal, and they dropped so far back at home, by the way, that it was literally 3 minutes later, 5th minute, Chelsea counter. They get a great opportunity, and it's only but for a great save by Emi Martinez that keeps them out. Mings, in that case, just totally lost the run of João Pedro, who gets a good head on it. And then 7th minute, 2 minutes later, you know, Ian Maatsen almost gives up arguably a penalty against Reece James. Probably not enough in it for me, but he did make contact with his foot in the box, a dangling leg out there. So, you know, we've seen penalties called for less.
Yeah.
Against us.
I think that one boils down to the classic conversation of, if it's a foul on the pitch, it's a foul in you know, in the box, right? So by that description, yes, that's a penalty. The logic for it not being a penalty is that Reece James took a terrible touch of the ball, and he was never gonna maintain that. That ball,
and was very much looking for it once the ball
correct. Yeah. So like that ball was never gonna stay at his feet. It was always gonna turn over. So that's the logic for not calling it. I can see both sides of it. You know, I get if it's a foul, it's a foul, it's a foul. But I also understand that in that case, there's a penalty on every single corner kick now. If you're going to call that, then every single corner kick penalty. Instead of corner kicks, just do penalties. You know, like if that's going to be your basis, right? So you have to be careful what you wish for there. But I could see both sides of it. But if it were me, I would be mad if it were Villa. But I think I would eventually come to understand, we were never going to maintain possession there. I think we had a similar non-call earlier this season, if I remember right, where the ball was always, I think it was Ollie, the ball was always going away from him. And it didn't get called. But yeah, I think defensively, two things really stood out to me. Once again, super duper vulnerable to the long balls forward. And Konsa and Cash in particular were struggling to keep up pace and always seemed to be running back toward goal at full sprint. And Villa were put in some very difficult situations early and often for that. And then once the first goal came, you just always knew that there was more coming. You could feel it coming. There was never going to be a point after that first goal for Chelsea that Villa were going to win that game, and I hate to say that, but that's
you kind of said it right there. It seemed like Konsa and Mings had no idea how to track João Pedro's movement. It seemed like every single time the ball was coming towards the box, someone lost him. He would make a late run, he'd make an early run, and a lot of his goals were just people weren't picking him up. The other thing that Chelsea used to great success is, so I'm going to use the word infuriating a lot today, something that I feel like I've been infuriatingly calling for Villa to do more often, and that is utilize width. What was it? 64th, I think, the João Pedro hat trick, right? Chelsea gets the ball. I think their left back has it. By half field, it is all the way at the right wing in the corner of half field and the touch line. And what do? They immediately swing it back the other way. They put, I believe it was Garnacho, in behind Matty Cash. They get the Villa defense moving left, moving right, moving left, moving right. And that's how they created all those openings, long diagonal balls. And it was so easy, where Villa scored the goal and maybe looked a little defensively resolute for maybe the next 10 or 15 minutes, so to speak.
Yep.
It was, dare I say, naive stuff for the rest of the game after that. I don't know what happened at halftime. Sure, there were a lot of Chelsea players that were really on it today, João Pedro in particular. Listen, we'll say his name a lot. He had an unbelievable performance. But what was Unai Emery's halftime talk? Try less? Just step up higher. Don't bother with an offside trap or anything. Just let them run, and we'll see if we can counter them. It boggles the mind how open Villa were defensively. Say what you will about expected goals going forward, but Villa have defended well all season long, and this just seemed like a back line that had never played together before.
Yep. I agree. It was one of the worst decisions, or one of the worst performances we've seen this season from the defensive side of the ball. Even if you go back to the first goal, Konsa just is lazy and doesn't step up.
Yeah, it doesn't get across him at all.
So like that lazy may be the wrong way to put it. I don't mean to, but Konsa just has a mental error and just
he turns off.
So on the whole, I don't feel like we need to break down the rest of the second half, because it was just an onslaught from Chelsea from that point on. I think that the key points that you need to take away are the same problems are still there that we've been talking about now for 7 or 8 games. Lack of width, lack of creativity, lack of speed and execution, and now add to it a defense that is seemingly totally out of sync. Some of that not being helped by the 2 defensive midfielders that don't seem to play well together, Onana and Luiz, but we look like a team adrift at the moment.
I'm glad you mentioned Onana and Luiz, Chris, because that was something else that I noticed throughout this game for the first time. It was the first time I noticed it. It's probably not the first time that it has happened this way. You're right. They don't seem to know each other at all. It repeatedly throughout the game, instead of supporting each other and kind of playing in tandem in different ways, it was like they had never spoken before, and they'd just be completely on opposite ends of the field. The middle was wide open. They're trying to cover
passes. Like when they had the ball, all kinds of issues.
Yeah, just couldn't do it. And I think what I'm learning more and more from this is that, and we probably knew this to a degree, but I didn't know how bad it was. Amadou Onana is not a suitable replacement for Boubacar Kamara. No. Amadou Onana needs to be in that number, I guess 8, 6+ role, the left defensive midfielder, right? He's not a shielder. He can't play in that position effectively. And so it really needs to be him or Luiz. And unfortunately, we've lost Matty Cash now, so this option goes out the window. But had we had the ability, I would probably have started playing Lamar Bogard as the starting number 6, because Onana Luiz can't Can't cut it. I think you have two guys that want to go forward a little bit too much, don't necessarily know how to cover this space, how to really tend towards being in the middle as opposed to jumping out wide. But the distance between our two defensive midfielders was absurd to me throughout this game. And that, yes, Chelsea played well. Yes, they moved the ball around well. Yes, they were going left to right, super effectively switching the play, using their width the way that I've been begging Villa to all season. No excuse for Luis and Onana to not be on the same page that way.
Yeah, when we say width, we don't want width between the two defensive mids. So I've been just a bad day and a continuation of what we've been looking at for the better part of the year now, the calendar year.
All right, Chris. So we've established that it's been a awful performance. Still would be remiss if we didn't touch on the two offsides discussions, almost back to back, Ollie Watkins and then João Pedro.
Yeah.
I don't really have anything to tee you up for this. You and I obviously feel a little bit differently about these, I think. I'll let you go first, and I'll see what I want to tack on.
My point about the Ollie Watkins one is, like, yes, by the letter of the law, he's offside. But I hate that. And I've said that for a long time, and I would hate it. And I think we've made mention of it when Villa have gotten lucky. Like I am consistent in saying I think that's a good goal. I don't.
You are. That's fair.
If you're not gaining an advantage, like having your right kneecap slightly ahead of the defender, I don't even know if it was right. It doesn't matter. Having your kneecap slightly ahead of the defender by half an inch or whatever it might be is not an advantage, that's going to get you the goal when the rest of your body is still in line or behind the defender. So I don't like that. I also I don't like the semi-automated offside rule that they have now is not as effective as I've seen in other leagues and in other instances in Europe. And I think some of that boils down to the referees, because even in the semi-automated offside, it's not like they have RFID on the players and are geolocating them, right? It's still a human being using software to determine this stuff. But
isn't it AI now?
What's that?
Isn't it AI now?
I doubt it. Do you think that PGMOL would let AI do the work there? Do you have an idea?
If I speak, I am in big trouble.
All right. So the other one, like I thought that it was João Pedro, right, on his second goal that got that. That was his second. Yeah, I thought he looked more offside when the play happened, but by the by the VAR, he wasn't even close. So I just my complaint, I guess, is with the application, and I just don't like this. I've said it a million times. I don't like this toenail thing that we're doing, like that. Having a toe ahead of your defensive player is not enough of an advantage for me to wipe out a goal. And again, I'm going to say it again. The thing I hate the most is now every time a goal gets scored, the first thing everybody does is turn and look at the monitor to see if it says VAR decision reviewing offside or reviewing possible foul or whatever. It's like, for me, it is killing the most exciting thing in sports, which is a goal in soccer. There is nothing that compares to that. I've watched, from every level up to a game at Villa Park, right? There's no experience like that when you see your team score and celebrate with your friends or whoever. It's just, there's nothing like that in sports, and we are taking that away by fingers and toes, and by VAR.
All right, so I don't necessarily disagree with anything that you said. I'll just add a couple caveats to that. There were plenty of times in a pre-VAR world where a linesman thought he saw offsides, raised the flag, and the guy was actually on. So there are plenty of universes where the guy sees Ollie Watkins get in behind and raises the flag because he thinks it's offsides. We actually find out that he is right by the letter of the law, but like he thought he was too far. So removing VAR doesn't necessarily eliminate like the controversy from right or wrong calls.
Oh, I'm not
Now,
saying it would.
now we might ultimately live with that at some point and just say, look, human error happens both ways. I think quite often we're still claiming conspiracy if he does raise his flag in that of Big Six bias of like, oh, Aston Villa got in behind. Oh, it needs to be for Chelsea. Someone radioed into the linesman to raise the flag. I'm not saying you and I, but like the Villarati on Twitter. When I saw the freeze frame of Ollie Watkins, I actually thought he looked way more offsides than the VAR even made it look like. So who knows if the linesman isn't trained to keep his flag down, does he notice the same thing when he's looking down and immediately raise it? Quite possible. So the idea that like, oh, that's a good goal no matter what era we're in, not necessarily true. The flip side, the João Pedro one, I agree with you. Like there are a lot of screen grabs out there where he looks offsides. The most damning one, and I'll admit I have not verified this by rewatching the broadcast myself, but you've probably seen the same one where like his foot is out, whereas the VAR that they're looking at has his foot still bent in.
Yep.
That is suspect to me. That is weird. I cannot explain.
And I don't know if that's like I don't know if that's verified either. I saw the same one, but I don't know that that's not somebody doing a screen grab of two
doing manipulation. Right? So listen, them's the breaks. It's the world in which we live in. I'm fine living with both decisions, particularly because I think in this game they were not going to change the result whatsoever. We already said Villa potentially got lucky on a penalty shout that was not reviewed early in the match.
Well, I think it was reviewed. It was reviewed and determined nothing.
Yeah. Sorry, yes, that was not like reviewed to be reversed.
Yeah,
From the online decision. Thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah.
However, I will say for the umpteenth time, the way that I would run offsides is to coach the linesman to raise the flag if he thinks that it's offsides. And when you go to VAR, there is no legislating of toenails. There is no computer-aided design software or anything like that. You watch it live speed, and if you can notice a clear and obvious error, then you reverse the call. That is what I say for all reviews. You can watch it from every angle that is available once at live speed. And if you think that, and if you can tell that it's a clear and obvious error, cool, switch it. If not, then we live with it because it is not clear and obvious. We don't need to go frame by frame, freeze frame by whatever.
I hate that.
To me, that would be a common sense application of video review. Allow you to snuff out the clear and obvious errors. Otherwise, to what you always call, the referees are coached to referee the game on the field as they see it, not necessarily wait to be veiled out by the video assistant.
And I do think there is, like we've mentioned this more than once now. I do think there is an element of that to the way referees call games now, and not just in soccer, but in everything, because they know they've got this in their back pocket, so to speak, where they don't make a call because they know that it can get, buzzed back and reviewed. And no matter what people say, that it doesn't affect the way they call games, or they're not trained to do that or whatever. You cannot erase that from their mind, like that. It exists, that's like, it's like trying to tell someone that they don't know something they know, right? So you can't do it that way. It's just that's not how human beings work. So I think we would be better off going to the system of you call it the way you call it. And like you described is probably the best application that we can come up with. Because I do hate, even when it turns out in Villa's favor, I hate the frame by frame by frame by frame in super slow motion. Well, I mean, obviously you're never going to see that, that's not how human beings watch things either. Like that's too much for me. That's beyond the realm of sport.
Yeah, it always makes stuff look worse than it actually is, I think, particularly in the case of like red card challenges and things like that, because you can get a freeze frame that looks like a guy is absolutely stomping the hell out of another guy when in live speed he kind of grazed him and went right by it or whatever. Um, on a brief tangent, Chris, can we just talk about how effing stupid Arsene Wenger's proposal for offsides is? Have
Oh,
you
it's the
seen this?
worst.
Like, so you just have to wait until you see daylight. First off, you're immediately giving attackers like a essentially one pace head start, right? You're
Yeah.
giving them an extra leg to get running ahead behind the defense. But two, this doesn't eliminate the microcosm legislation of toenails. You are now just going to be legislating to see, well, was there daylight or
is
not
there a
on the
gap?
back foot?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You're just moving the area that you're going to be legislating that like closeness.
And I'm not.
I don't know who this
I am
helps.
not ever suggesting that. I am saying that if a guy's got a toe ahead, I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
But if half his body is in front of the defender, then you probably need to raise the flag again. Just if you see it, call it. See the call, make the call. That's it. That's all you do.
Yep. Do we need to keep talking about this game?
It was terrible. It's terrible. The team played terribly, and we look like
the team played terribly. And by the way, Chris, do not let him off. Unai Emery managed this one terribly as well.
Yeah. I mean, he has to do something. The team has to do something. They look like closer to relegation than Champions League at the moment. So,
Yep. So I said this in the pre-match, and I guess this is a teaser for the larger implication on the season. Boy, Villa are really giving Nottingham Forest 24-25 season. And what I mean by that is Forest were sitting in third or fourth most of the year. They had some ridiculous overperformance on their expected points total based on expected goals. Much worse than Villa's. I think Villa's are what, like 12th. They're probably 7th or 8th by most metrics. They've been in third. Yeah. Forest for most of the year until that point were like 16th, 17th in the expected points table, somehow sitting third. They crashed and burned over the last couple months of the season, could not buy a win, ultimately falling down to 7th, only making the Europa League because of weird UEFA technicalities with Crystal Palace.
Yeah.
And boy, do Villa seem like they're doing the same thing right now.
It feels like it. You'd be lying to yourself if you said it didn't. Now, I did come up with, not to steal another guy's thunder, but I did come up with a new song to sort of brighten our spirits, given the results from today. And it's an easy one. At least we're not Spurs. At least we're not Spurs. We're Aston Villa. At least we're not Spurs.
So it's funny that you say that. I have a couple, before we close this one out, a couple rapid fire questions that I want your immediate response to. These are not in the rundown. So anybody listening to this, watching this, you will get Chris's immediate gut reaction to these things. Good points.
Wait. So I'm not allowed to think at all, or like
I want snap second first. Okay. They're all like yes or no. So like just yes or no, like what comes to your head first. Those are larger implication on the season, though. So let's do good points, bad points first. Good points, I suppose Man U lost to Newcastle.
Yep.
So, don't lose any ground there. Obviously, Liverpool also lost to Wolves. So
the hottest team in Europe. Again,
the hottest team in Europe. So we were still able to maintain our position in fourth. Everybody else is also crumbling around us. Bad points. We mentioned the shambolic organization. It's like the team has never played together before, and that's both on them and on Unai Emery for not getting them ready. Matty Cash now out with a calf injury, getting a scan today for this foreseeable future. You and I both rate him as a player, but not necessarily at a right back. But it does seem like Lamar Bogard probably will be stepping in there for the foreseeable future. Again, because Unai refuses to change his structure, we won't be going to 3 at the back with Lindelof or anything like that. It will be a like for like with either Lindelof or Bogard filling in at right back, which fills, I think, both of us with terror.
Yep.
Yes.
I would prefer Bogard play in the defensive midfield. He just looks so much more comfortable and plays pretty well at right back. Since we've tried to put him out there, it's never worked.
Yep. Okay, Chris. Gut reaction, just yes or no answers. Okay.
Okay.
Aston Villa will advance versus Lille.
No.
Well, that answers the next one. Aston Villa will win the Europa League. No.
No.
Aston Villa will finish top 5 in the Premier League.
No.
Aston Villa will finish in the Europa League places in the Premier League.
Yes.
Tottenham Hotspur will get relegated.
No. But I did hesitate a little bit on that one, but still no. I just think they have too many good players. Like it's crazy that that they struggle this much because they have too many good players to get relegated. And now they're without Van de Ven for a 3-game ban because of the red card, right? It was straight red. So, and he's without doubt to me their best player this season.
Absolutely.
But so no, but still it's not a lack of talent. So I don't understand it. I mean, they're certainly not the best team in the league, but they're not anywhere near this, To
be fair, when Villa went down, we've seen what all those guys have done since that relegation year. I don't know that Villa was lack of talent either to be as bad as they were.
So
I think a lot of teams that go down, a lot of teams that go down, I don't know that it's necessarily talent with exception of, probably whoever finishes 20th every year.
I mean, Villa should not have ended the year on 16 points or whatever.
Right. That's my point.
I think they always would have been around the relegation places.
Yeah.
But yes, I mean, I did not watch the game today, but I did see the stats and the final score. And I know this is not a Spurs podcast, but it is crazy that they went from 1-0 up at 34 minutes, right? 34 minutes gone, 1-0 up. By halftime, they're 3-1 down and down to 10 men. Like that is a crazy 15 minutes because they played some added time. But that is a bonkers added time.
They've got a rough schedule for.
I looked at it.
Like other than Wolves and Aston Villa, I don't see any easy games on there.
You think they're going to beat Wolves at Molineux, the hottest team in Europe right now?
I'm just saying on paper, as the thing looks right now, there are 2 easy.
There are not a lot of wins out there. Yes, no, I looked at it. I actually half joked to a buddy of mine who's a Spurs fan that Villa and Spurs will both be winless going into the game on May 2nd.
That's very possible.
Yeah, I mean, so they're what? Are they 11 winless in the Premier League now?
I'm pretty sure they haven't won this calendar year.
They have not. I think they're 11 winless.
And they're 1 point off the drop?
Yes, a single point. They have a 6-pointer coming up with Forest.
Yeah.
But first they've got who is it?
Liverpool?
Well, they've got Liverpool, but I'm talking about in Champions League. They've got a big
they have
Atletico, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's all right.
Yeah, they have Madrid, Liverpool, Madrid, Forest.
6-pointer.
Sunderland, Brighton, Wolves, Villa, Leeds, Chelsea, Everton.
I mean that's a brutal schedule.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's going to be a fun watch, I guess. We're not going to be in the same position, I think, as last year, where everything was pretty well settled by the second week of May or first week of May, I should say.
They would easily be the biggest team ever to go down.
Oh, 100%.
When you look at finances and everything, I know Villa, Newcastle, Forest, bigger clubs than Spurs historically, but with where they should be today relative to their finances, it absolutely would be the biggest club to go down.
Not even close. I mean, it's a money machine, that would go down, and it would be the first time that they'd be relegated, I think, since 1969 or something. I mean, it's been forever. Since they were relegated, certainly not since the newest era of the Premier League. So that'll be a fun watch. And again, I have some Spurs fan friends, so I just text them at least I'm safe. We may not end up in Champions League, but we're not going to take the drop. We're mathematically, I believe, safe at this point. So
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. But it's not great for Villa, and that's why we're talking about Spurs right now, because that's a more interesting story.
Nothing to make us feel better than reminding ourselves that someone has it worse, right?
That's right. Yeah. There's always someone who has it worse than you.
I think that's the perfect spot to end it, Chris. What about you?
That sounds good.
Yeah. All right, everybody. We will be back sometime, maybe over the weekend, early next week, with our Lille preview, and then obviously United in short order after that. But a couple days off, everybody rest up, go watch a movie, get away from football for a little bit, and let's all rejuvenate ourselves for what is a very, very increasingly important Europa League tie, because it may be our only avenue back to the Champions League next year. Won't spoil anything for that, though. Shout outs, Azzy Wazzy Woo on Instagram. Thanks for slide tackling into that comment section.
Thanks, Azzy.
Big Walt, Black Country Villain, as always, shouts out to you on YouTube. All right, Chris. That's that. Until the next time, as always, up the Villa.
Up the Villa.
Hi, Mom and Dad.